My name is Clara Simmons, and I live in Austin, Texas. I've always been the type of woman people underestimated. Quiet. Reserved. A little too agreeable. I was the kind of person who others assumed would never rock the boat, never raise her voice, and certainly never surprise anyone. But they were wrong. Especially my husband, Grant. We met when I was just 23, a few months after I graduated from the University of Texas. I was working as a junior marketing associate, full of energy and hope, eager to prove myself. Grant was 30 at the time, tall, confident, already successful, and absolutely charming. I remember thinking he looked like someone who had his life figured out. He wore that expensive cologne, the one you only catch a trace of when someone walks by and leaves it lingering in the air. He noticed me in the break room of the firm we both worked at. I was pouring myself some awful office coffee, and he came over, gave me that easy smile of his, and asked if I was new. 2 weeks later, he took me out for sushi, and 6 months after that, we were inseparable. By the time I was 26, we were married. Everyone thought I was lucky. He had a 6-figure salary, a penthouse apartment downtown, and a way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. But what people didn't see were the cracks forming beneath that picture-perfect surface. At first, they were small. Little things. He'd interrupt me when I was speaking. He'd make decisions without asking me. He'd criticize my outfits, nothing harsh, just offhand comments like, "That color's not really your best," or, "Are you sure that's the right look for this event?" It chipped away at me slowly, like water eroding stone. I always told myself he meant well, that he loved me, that I was overreacting. Then came the layoffs at my job. The company had to downsize, and I was one of the unlucky ones. I remember coming home, devastated, fighting back tears. I thought Grant would comfort me, help me figure things out. Instead, he poured himself a drink and said, "Well, at least now you can focus on the house for a while." I should have seen it coming. From that day on, my world became smaller and smaller. I stopped seeing friends. I stopped dressing up. I stopped dreaming. But what Grant didn't realize, what he never realized, was that I was still paying attention, still thinking, still planning. He had no idea I could do what I was about to do. It started with a journal. I'd scribble things down at night when he was asleep. Not complaints or angry rants, plans, ideas, things I wanted to do, places I wanted to go. I started freelancing, quietly at first, using my marketing background to help small businesses in Austin boost their social media presence. I used a different name, a different email address. I worked when Grant was out or asleep. I even opened a separate bank account. And then, something remarkable happened. I became good at it. Really good. One of my clients, a local bakery, saw their sales triple in a month. Word spread. Suddenly I was getting inquiries from boutiques, fitness studios, even a new vegan food truck. I juggled it all quietly, efficiently, and with a fire in my chest I hadn't felt in years. I started making more money than I ever had at my old job, and he didn't have a clue. But I didn't want money. Not really. What I wanted was independence, confidence, a life that wasn't confined to someone else's idea of who I should be. It all came to a head one sunny afternoon in May. Grant had just gotten home from the gym. He tossed his keys on the kitchen counter, opened the fridge, and called out, "Did you remember to pick up my dry cleaning?" I was in my home office. Yes, he still thought it was just a reading room, and had just finished a Zoom meeting with a new client from Denver. I walked out, leaned against the doorway, and looked at him. "I didn't," I said calmly. "I was working." He blinked at me, confused. Working. On what? And that's when I told him. All of it. The clients. The income. The fact that I had been quietly building my own company for over a year. I handed him a printed statement of the business account. When he saw the 5 figures in monthly deposits, his mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. He stood there, holding the paper like it was in a language he couldn't read. I don't understand," he stammered. I know, I said, smiling. You had no idea I could do that. For a few seconds, we just stood there in silence. I could tell he was scrambling to reframe me in his head. This wasn't the quiet, obedient Clara who once asked if she should wear flats or heels to dinner. This was someone else entirely. He tried to regain control. He tried to ask questions, demand answers, even act supportive. But the truth was, I had already made up my mind. That weekend, I moved out. I found a small apartment near Zilker Park with huge windows and hardwood floors. It wasn't a penthouse, but it was mine. My clients didn't care if I was single or married. They cared that I delivered results. I got a cat named Olive, started going to yoga, and rediscovered my old hobbies: painting, reading mystery novels, baking muffins at 2 a.m. if I felt like it. Grant called a few times after I left. Sent a few emails. They started off angry, then became apologetic. Eventually, they stopped. I didn't reply to any of them. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I was free. One afternoon, I got a message on LinkedIn from a woman named Stephanie. She worked in publishing and had come across my work with one of the Austin bakeries. She asked if I'd be interested in writing a book on digital marketing for small businesses. I stared at the message for a while before replying. Yes, I typed. I'd love to. And just like that, another door opened. Today, I speak at conferences. I mentor women trying to start their own businesses. I get messages from people all over the country thanking me for inspiring them. And sometimes, when I walk past a mirror, I barely recognize myself. Not because I look different, but because I feel different. The girl who used to ask for permission is gone. The woman who built something from scratch has taken her place. I never raised my voice. I never caused a scene. I never made threats or demands. I just did the one thing he never expected. I believed in myself. And that made all the difference. He had no idea I could do that. But now,